Hi, I'm Ken Kessler, and welcome to the Sounds of Christmas podcast. If you're new to this podcast, I'd like to start by saying thank you for joining us. If you're not so new, welcome back. Either way, I'm very glad that you're here. Now, to avoid any confusion, I want to start off by saying there won't be any music played here. This is a place for conversation. I'll talk about Christmas music and some related topics, sometimes by myself and sometimes with guests. If you're looking for music, just go to soundsofchristmas.com and click on the tree or the player on the front page or on the Listen Now page. We play the best variety of Christmas music all year long. Well, except in October, when we play the best variety of Halloween music. Speaking of Halloween music, you may have heard my next guest while we were playing Halloween music back in October with her version of That Old Black Magic. Hi, Deb Bowman. Thanks for joining us today.
Hi, Ken. Great to be here with you.
And speaking of Halloween, and I'm getting us off track right from the get-go, you just recently starred as Morticia in the musical version of the Addams Family in Atlanta. And that was a role that Bebe Neuwirth and Brooke Shields had on Broadway. That must have been pretty cool.
It was a total blast. I really had a great time playing Morticia and developing the role. And I have to say, I settled into her quite nicely. It was hard to let go of her, but yeah, she was really fun. It was great to dance and sing, and it was awesome to be on stage again after a few years with COVID sort of stopping live theater for sure.
And it's a really fun production. I didn't get to, because I don't live in Atlanta, I didn't get to see yours, but I have seen when it went out on tour. And it's a really fun musical of this creepy, cool family that we all know. And it's different than the TV series, and it's different than the movie series with Angelica Houston, and it's different than the animated a couple of movies that have been out recently. But it's charming. It's a love of family, and it still has that creepy Addams Family vibe. It's a lot of fun. You must have been a
It has
blast.
a great message, because it's really all about honesty and loving each other and yeah, and how family is first and foremost, whether living or dead.
Yeah. And you wouldn't think about the Addams Family necessarily being so relatable, but the problems that they have in this particular production, with the daughter making a big decision that she confides in her father about, but he's not allowed to tell, and then the wife knows he knows something, but he doesn't want to betray the daughter, and he doesn't want to betray the wife by not telling her, and it's very complicated, and it's just so relatable.
It is. And their love is really so unique, I think, and so inspiring.
Yeah.
I love the relationship of Gomez and Morticia, and they really love their family. Lurch and Fester and everybody. Even Thing. We had the hand. It was a really great production. I have to say, I really enjoyed being wacky and relishing in that wackiness.
Oh, that was that. If the Addams Family musical comes to your town, you should definitely check it out. And now that we've started off track, let's try and pull it back and let me give a more proper introduction for you. You've performed internationally in TV, film, theater, and cabaret shows. Since you came to Atlanta, you have been embraced as one of Atlanta's finest entertainers. Your stage credits include Chicago, Cabaret, 42nd Street, The Little Mermaid, Hairspray, Oliver, Evita, Sweeney Todd, and A Streetcar Named Desire. You've worked alongside Meryl Streep, Steve Martin, Shia LaBeouf, James Franco, and Vanessa Williams. And your first solo album, Addicted to Love Songs, made the Grammy ballot in 4 categories. And by the way, that's where you'll find That Old Black Magic that I mentioned early on. And then your follow-up, Fast Heart, released in concert at New York City's legendary jazz club Birdland, album recorded at Power Station in New York City, and also made the Grammy ballot. And it just seems like all of that is a lot of wow. Wow.
Thanks.
Yeah. There's so much to talk about there, and I want to get to the Christmas album, but let's start with the people that you've gotten to work with. Meryl Streep, Steve Martin. What were the productions for those?
I was in the film. That both of those were in the film It's Complicated, and it was really kind of this wonderful shoot that lasted for about 6 days. We were set up in Prospect. Is it Prospect Park, or it might have been Park Slope? That was in Brooklyn, and they kind of shuttled us into this park area where they had manifested this incredible tent that was a giant grocery store in that Meryl Streep owned in the story. And I was just sort of one of the workers that was her, her staff on her in this fantastic grocery store. And working with her every day for those 6 days was unbelievably humbling, and was kind of a masterclass in the sense that watching her work on camera was fascinating, because she would literally do a take and then never do the same thing every take. It was always a different approach to the same lines, and I got to work right next to her, and she was so kind. She'd come in the morning early when she came to set, and she'd actually like take my hands and look me in the eye and go, "Hi, Deborah, how did you sleep last night?" And I remember having this just inner monologue of like, "Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God." Like just like Tourette's in my brain. I wanted to like spit and like cry and scream. And then I would take a breath and I'd go, I slept quite well, Meryl. How did you sleep? And she was just, we talked about the most uncanny little things, shoes and strange things. I mean, it's been a number of years, but it was a really cool experience. I never really got to get up close and personal that much with Steve Martin in the working aspect, but he was there with us in those scenes. So he was very kind. He was a man of few words, but just total pros, total stars, and totally kind, totally kind human beings, despite their greatness, and I think that that's one more thing that's awe-inspiring to me as a performer, that you can still be amazing and, be a celebrity.
And yeah, and what an incredible experience that must have been. And I picked out those two names, not just because of who they are, but they also have both recorded Christmas music. Meryl Streep sang a couple songs back, probably back in the 90s, when Hallmark stores would issue CDs at Christmas time. There were a couple CDs that had a couple Christmas songs that she sang.
I did not know that. I didn't know that she had recorded any Christmas music. I'll have to look that up. Well, yeah. Of course, Steve Martin has quite a cachet of recordings, and I love all his music. I love his book, Born Standing Up, his autobiography. It's a great book, and it's really telling of how his career developed. But I'll have to look up the music.
Yeah, he's been doing a lot of stuff with the Steel Canyon Band, and on their last album, which was probably 2 or 3 years ago, they tacked on a Christmas song, and it's very Steve Martin. That's not a great way to say it, because he's really multifaceted, but it's the kind of song that you would almost think of coming from Steve Martin, or when you hear it, you wouldn't be surprised that he was behind it. It is funny and it's clever, and you're not expecting it, and it touches you. So it's really a neat song.
Yeah.
The first album, Addicted to Love Songs, that's where that Old Black Magic came from, and there's a lot of great standards. Is it all? I don't remember. Is it all standards? Is it all covers?
No, it is all covers. I had not embarked on my songwriting journey at that point in my career. There are a few pop songs. Gosh, it's been a minute since I've even thought about what's on that album. There's Don't Let the Sun Catch You Crying. That's a great old 50s song. The arrangements on Addicted to Love songs were all done by Dean Franson, incredible arranger that I have had the privilege of working with through the years. And he produced and directed that album. And so you'll hear a lot of a mix of genres, but they all have that kind of jazz vibe, but in a way that's just so creative and unpredictable. And Addicted to Love songs is on that record as well. And that's kind of a fun take on the song, but mostly all jazz.
Right. And then Fast Heart you were writing your own material by then.
Yes. Yeah. It's about half original and then half covers. We've got, and it runs the gamut style wise too, in the sense that there's a gospel song which was has really had a lot of excitement towards it. It's called "Shelter Me from the Storm." There's a great music video for that too on YouTube. Highly recommend that. Sort of honors those that we've lost to ovarian cancer. And I released the album Fast Heart on the 10th anniversary of my sister's death. And she had passed away from ovarian cancer. And it was a big tribute. The album artwork and a lot of the themes, which have to do with butterflies and ethereal things, including the title track Fast Heart, which I wrote, all sort of have correlation to her and, those that we've lost. But the Shelter Me from the Storm, which features the JW inspirational singers who were just recently on America's Got Talent, a really incredible gospel choir that is on that track. So a lot of good songs, a lot of great songs.
Yeah, La Vie en Rose is on there, and Georgia on My Mind, two of my favorites.
Yeah,
it's a terrific collection. What led you from doing a lot of standards and finally getting into your own songwriting and the jazz and the gospel and all of that into a Christmas album? Was this something that was on your agenda for a long time, or was it something that you were inspired to do?
I have been performing a holiday cabaret type show for, I'd say about 15 years. We did a lot of them. I did a lot of them in New York City around the holidays, performed like at the Laurie Beachman Theater and featured in other little cabaret shows around the city. And then started to kind of take it on the road and do, some of the private clubs throughout the country and just have created different versions of kind of a holiday cabaret show over many years, and always wanted to record an album, but just never really got to it. It takes time and heart and money. And finally I was like, okay, the next album after Fast Heart is going to be a holiday album. So 2019 holiday season was super busy for me and my band. We had 34 shows in 25 days.
Wow.
Private events. And it was just a really busy, lucrative, full holiday season. And so we came off of that. I did another album release concert of Fast Heart in Atlanta because I had never actually performed the album in Atlanta. I had done it, in New York. And so we did a concert on January 18th of last year in 2020. And then we went into the studio and recorded the first 5 songs for A Big Love Holiday with my Atlanta band, the Big Love Band. And then COVID hit. And so everything just got completely frozen. We were supposed to be on the City Springs Theater subscriber season last December to release the album. And of course that got pushed off to this year. So everything just got delayed, postponed. And then we picked up again this summer. And at that point I had finished writing a couple of holiday songs that had really been on my heart for a while. And we went in and laid down an additional 5 tunes. And it's been a busy late summer and fall because this kind of has come together really quickly. And here it is.
Lots of great songs, and it's a great mix of songs on Big Love Holiday that resemble the mix of songs that we've already talked about on your other albums. There are, Oh Holy Night and Count Your Blessings and Drummer Boy, and then there are more recent songs covers like This Christmas and Santa Baby, and then there's a couple originals in there too. Were there particular songs that you just knew you had to record?
Yes, I really wanted to involve in this record more than previous that kind of cabaret element where it's kind of conversational with the audience. It's a little more theatrical in a sense that you're exploring, different evoking and exploring different feelings throughout the record. But overall, I actually struggled to kind of define what this album was when I had all these 10 tracks. I almost dropped a couple of them because I couldn't figure out the order. I couldn't figure out, what the flow or the theme was. And there were a couple. Count Your Blessings was one that I just knew I wanted to have on the record. And Santa Baby, yes, I wanted to incorporate that because it involves, as you may know from listening to that track, it involves a character that I use in the cabaret show. Her name is Trixie, and she's kind of she's a mischievous, damsel that comes in and steals the show and stops the band, and it's a whole thing. And so I wanted to incorporate those cabaret elements, but I wanted overall it to have this feeling of, you could just play this in your living room with your family and it not get in the way, or you could sit and really relish in it and listen and sing along. And so I think we kind of got that, we kind of captured that with the range of style, if you will.
And that's one of the things I really love about Christmas music and Christmas albums is that you can have that kind of mix of genres and styles and even themes from one song to the next. Santa Baby and I'll Be Home for Christmas are thematically miles apart, but you can have them next to each other and it works on a Christmas album.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not exactly next to each other on your album, but just, as an example. But you've got I'll Be Home for Christmas, and then you have This Christmas, the Donny Hathaway classic.
Yeah.
And I don't know that there are too many other genres that you could really put. Like I'll Be Home for Christmas is a standard. You think when you think about that song, you think about Bing, and you think, that era of music. And then This Christmas is a 70s R&B kind of song. Yeah. And you wouldn't normally anywhere else, you wouldn't think of those going together, but they work.
Yeah.
They work for a Christmas album.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting, when you're developing your order and your album kind of theme and all of that. I think the traditional way is never to start a record with a ballad. And I faced this when I was producing Fast Heart, because I did several listens in, listening rooms and had other people sort of sit in with me on this listening process. And multiple people said, you have to put Willow in the Wind, which is an original song that I wrote, that you need to enter Fast Heart, the album, with that song. And I'm like, you can't do that. It's a ballad, it's too, and they're like, okay. And what happened? I ended up putting it in the beginning, and it was a beautiful introduction to the story and to the album as a whole. And I felt like I kind of almost wanted to recreate that vibe with the entrance of I'll Be Home for Christmas, because it just takes you into that element of jazz and the sounds of holiday and that heartfelt, warm, Christmas by the fire, laughing with your friends and family, and whatever it is, it just sort of sets you right into that moment. So,
I think that especially with Christmas music, all the rules kind of go out the window. when
Sure.
you're putting together a Christmas album, because you're right. The thinking on putting together an album is usually you want something poppy, snappy, upbeat
Yeah.
to start the record with, to draw people in and make them tap their toes and get them happy and excited that they're there. And with a Christmas album, you can have this majestic "I'll be home for Christmas" to bring people in, and it absolutely works.
Yeah. And then transition right into that fun Donny Hathaway, poppy, energetic tune that everybody knows and wants to tap their foot and bob their head to, you know?
Yeah.
And then take you to a sacred level where, you know, you're celebrating the birth of Christ and you're going through the sacred elements of the holiday season, which was important to me because I wanted to honor all of those feelings and all of those rituals, if you will, you know, all of the elements of Christmas.
And that's another thing that I really love about Christmas music is that making a Christmas album allows you to do all of those things. In almost any other genre, any other time of year, if you wanted to do two or three big kind of things like that, you would need two or three different releases, because
Sure, absolutely.
producers and anybody else who's involved are going to tell you, no, you can't do all of that, but you can with a Christmas album. And I think that's great. There are two originals on here: "There Will Be Christmas" and "Tinsel Everywhere." Let's talk about "There Will Be Christmas" first. Was there anything in particular that inspired you on that one?
Yeah, I started that song last year, early in the year, and I I wanted it to. It started from a place of feeling nostalgic of the memories that you share with maybe grandparents or people that aren't around anymore, you know, in a future Christmas. And I kind of wanted it to have this sort of fairy like feeling, although it never ended up that way. I was inspired last holiday season with sharing the holidays with someone that had been recently diagnosed with a very, very serious cancer. And the holidays were really pivotal in a sense that it felt like the stakes were really high, you know, and there was just a lot of sentiment. And when I got back to visiting the song this year and started to try to, you know, incorporate the story, I wanted to not only recall past beautiful memories, but the present memories that we make, and then cherishing and living through and spreading and continuing to revisit those wonderful memories for years to come. And so the song ended up sort of being like, it starts out in the past and then it moves to present and then it encourages future. So, but it definitely was inspired by some personal things that I had to go through last year.
And it's very hopeful, and it works really well going into the next track, your version of "Oh Holy Night."
Thank you.
It's great. And then on the opposite side of the spectrum from that is "Tinsel Everywhere."
Yeah. Tinsel Everywhere was just really just a catchy hook. You know, I get these hooks in my brain, these melodic hooks, and I can't let them go until I turn them into a song. And Tinsel Everywhere started that way, where I could hear the hook, but it was inspired by that sparkle that's always left behind from your holiday decorations for, it feels like weeks after you've even put everything away, you know, in your basement or your attic or wherever you're storing your Christmas decor, holiday decor, that tinsel, that sparkle. And it's like you could vacuum the floor 15 times and you're still going to see some red sparkle or some. So, and I could see these sparkles and I was like, there's gotta be something that everyone can relate to in this sparkle. And then that hook was in my head. And so thus began Tinsel Everywhere. And it kind of has that Broadway, you know, fun, kind of incorporating Hanukkah and Christmas and, you know, whatever it means to you during the holiday season. And I just feel like it's fun. It kind of it'll kind of drive you a little cuckoo too after a while because you can't get it out of your head, you know.
Were there any Christmas songs that you wanted to include that you didn't because you ran out of time or for any other particular reason?
That's a good question, Ken. I had a list of things that I started with early last year and then just kind of transitioned. One that I love is a grown-up Christmas list. That was one, more contemporary song that I really wanted to put on the album, but it's kind of a unique arrangement, and I didn't know how to recreate the arrangement because I like to recreate, songs and make them my own. And so I never really got to that one. So that's one that I might have wanted to put on there. And maybe another sacred tune, Green Sleeves would have been great, or Joy to the World, some of those more uplifting of the celebration of Christ being born. But, you kind of got to stop after a while. And it's funny too, this is interesting. I almost cut, and I did the same thing on Fast Heart. I almost cut some of the songs that people just love because I am super judgmental of my own performance and didn't feel like I had the time to go back into the studio and redo stuff. And I almost cut This Christmas. But it's great, right? I mean, it's a really awesome tune on the album.
Yeah.
I just my mixing engineer Ken Gregory just did some magic on that one, and he was like, "Just don't cut it, Deb. Just give me a day." And when he came back with the horn parts and stuff, I was just like, "Okay, all right, great, good, we got this."
Well, it has to be, I would imagine, at least a little daunting to do a song like "Oh Holy Night" that so many have done, and there are so many amazing over the top versions.
Yes.
And I would think it's just tough to, almost everybody has sung that song, not necessarily professionally, but you've sung it. So everybody knows it and knows all these amazing versions of it. I would think it would be hard to record this without feeling like you have to measure up.
Oh, it is so, well, that's a good point. I remember in the studio, the recording engineer for that one was kind of, like, "Oh, okay, you're going to do that." And at the beginning of the session was kind of a little bit, I don't know, I don't want to say judgmental, but it was a little bit like, "Oh boy, this is going to take a minute," And we did really pretty much all of the songs that are on the album, we did in less than 2 to 3 takes. So, and it was all recorded live with the band, that "Oh Holy Night" is a duo. It's just me and Arthur D. Turner on the piano. And then I went back in and did overdubs, did the vocal harmonies a few days after we recorded it, just the two of us. And that was one I really wanted to cut too, because it was really hard. It's hard. It is super hard song to sing. I don't care how accomplished you are. It is hard. And the range of that is vast. It goes from very low to very high, and to sustain all those phrases using, your breath control. I mean, it's difficult. It's not an easy song, but I think it turned out pretty sweet. So.
Oh yeah, I agree. And it is a hard song. I mean, everybody who's listening to this podcast has probably sung this song, and maybe you've sung it in church, or maybe you've just sung it when it came on the radio, or it came on your CD player, your record player, what have you. But there's a big difference between singing along like that and singing either in public in front of an audience, or even just singing to record it and giving it your all. It's kind of like, and this is a weird comparison to make, but it's kind of like the Star Spangled Banner.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really hard song to sing if you're the one who is leading everyone. If you are, if you are down on the field or at midcourt or wherever you are in front of an audience, if you're the one that is singing that and everybody is going to be following your lead, that's hard. And I think that Oh Holy Night is similar to that. It is a hard song. If you're singing in the shower, probably not singing Oh Holy Night in the shower, but if you're singing along in church or wherever, you don't have to hit the right notes. You don't need to carry the notes for as long as they need to be. You don't have to enunciate correctly. None of those things matter when you're singing by yourself or with friends. But it's when you're singing a song that that Pavarotti has done, and and you have a list of the who's who and the music industry has recorded it, and then you go in to do it. It's got to be
it's
gotta be.
It's pretty scary.
Oh, I bet. I always forgive this next question. I always ask people because I'm obviously a Christmas music nut, and even though this album is just out, do you think that there's more Christmas music to come from Deb Bowman and the Big Love Band?
I think so. I was thinking actually about that this morning because I was thinking, what happens in a few years when maybe you've sold all your merch and you're like, okay, should I go in and do a whole nother album? Should I release just some singles? Because that seems to be more common these days, where you can just do a single release and not have to do a whole album and the whole process of that. And I definitely think that there will be more holiday music. I'm considering doing a vinyl press of some of the songs, maybe as early as next year, maybe doing like a holiday in July or Christmas in July and having something new to offer. And maybe on that, I'll go into the studio and do a different song and go on and put that onto a vinyl press. I don't know. We'll see. I'm a big vinyl lover and collector, and I did a vinyl press for Fast Heart, and I wanted to do it for this, but I just really didn't have the time and the budget. It's a pretty big feat, So yes, Ken, more holiday music.
Yay. That's always good to hear. I know you've got a lot of appearances coming up for this release to celebrate and promote it. Other than that, any other things on the agenda for the rest of this year or into 2022?
Not so much this year. I've got the focus is the holiday album. I've got some private events and things like that. And next year I'm doing some dates with the Big Love Band. We're playing the big art museum here in January at the High Museum in Atlanta for their jazz series that they do. And that's really cool. I've been wanting to do that for several years. And I've got some theater stuff that's in negotiations. I don't really want to say it live, but that's coming very likely and possibly in the spring, summer of 2022. And what else? I have been excited to be a recurring role on the DC Comics series Stargirl, and playing the role of Miss Woods. And that I've been busy working on for season 3. So that'll be coming out, I guess, next year too. So some good stuff there.
What's the best way for people to keep up with you? Is it through your website?
Yeah, debbowman.com. You can also email me at deb@debbowman.com. And you can follow me on Instagram at Deborah Bowman and Facebook, Deb Bowman. And yeah, I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to connect with you and hear how you feel about a Big Love holiday.
And you have a YouTube channel too, right?
Oh yes, YouTube is Deborah Bowman as well.
Okay. Are there Christmas videos up there or going to be soon?
I hope so. I don't, I can't promise that right at this moment. Sorry.
I didn't mean to put you on the spot. But you know how it is with Christmas music junkies like me, it's never enough. So.
Yeah, we're doing a lot of video for the live concerts in December, so probably we'll have some video content for that for next year holiday season, but I'm not sure I'm going to have the time to get a video release yet, but we'll see.
Okay. Well, we'll keep an eye out for it. Deb, it's been so much fun talking to you. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Ken. Looking forward to the holiday season, and thanks for having me on the show.
And thank you for listening, helping us share some Christmas spirit, and for helping this podcast continue to grow. Since you're listening to us now, you've obviously found us somewhere. But if there's another site you like to use for podcasts, check out our podcast page on our website for the complete list of everywhere you can listen to the Sounds of Christmas podcast. And the website is soundsofchristmas.com. Then just click on the podcast tab. For the Sounds of Christmas station, to listen to the music, you'll need to stick with our website or our app in the Google Play Store. If you have comments or suggestions, feel free to reach out to me on social media or through the website. Thanks again. And may you always believe in Santa Claus.